Hello, friends. Welcome to the QZ. That's right, QZ, not QZ. I'm saying it incorrectly. It's the Quarantine Zone, and I'm very, very pleased to have here with me a formidable musician. And to me, Al, you are just a very artistic soul. You have a lot of creativity churning in there, and it comes out in many forms, audio and also visual. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me. Also, thank you, Isaac, for joining all the way in Sao Paulo, if I remember rightly. That's pretty cool. Isaac is a great guitar player. Don't you know, people? Isaac plays in Banda Black Rio and I imagine many other things. But I was lucky enough to see Isaac's band, I don't know, like many, many years ago. But today is not about Isaac, so I'm going to remove that. Today is about Al. Al, how are you doing? Where are you? And how are you celebrating the birthday of our beloved monarch?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I'm in sunny Bristol, just outside, and yeah, I'm not exactly sure when our beloved monarch's birthday is, but my birthday is on Sunday, so I'm going to be celebrating that.
Ah, okay.
Made it all the way to 50 somehow. Half a
Wow.
century.
50 years young. Man, you don't look 50 and you don't seem 50. I feel like you're young at heart. You have the creativity of a, younger chap.
It's a Peter Pan complex, I think that's what they call it.
Right, sure. So, folks, Al was, I've known Al for a while actually, but one of the most times, rather, one of the times that we worked most intensively together was last year in May when I recorded an album that Al had put together, which going by alswanger.bandcamp.com, the information, it's one thing I love about Bandcamp, all the information there is very, very clear. And it said that you had started recording, because I remember there were a couple of tracks that we were playing along with, or at least using inspiration, like getting inspired by them, which you'd started work on in August the year before. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, Al. So give us the lowdown. Actually, just before you do, one moment. Um, David Frin. I think it's the anniversary of the coronation, not the old bag's birthday. Thank you for the for fact checking me, and I'm sorry that I don't know what day it is. What can I say? If you want to know what triads are found in the diminished scale, I can tell you that, but I don't know what day it is apparently. So thank you for checking, David. Yeah, Al. Tell me about this
still, far
album.
more importantly, it's my birthday on
It's
Sunday.
Al's birthday, everyone.
Quick,
Everyone, go and buy Al's album, Al Swainger, Swainger, .bandcamp.com. Go and buy it for his birthday and check it out.
that
Um,
would be the best present. Yeah.
but yeah, so tell me about this album, Al. Tell us what's it
Yeah,
called
so um,
and so on.
uh, yeah, it's part of my ongoing Pointless Beauty project, which you can talk about more in a bit. And this album is called Hearts Full of Grace. Um, yeah, it started 2 years ago during the lockdown. Uh, I mean, I imagine this happens to a lot of composers. Is you start tinkering with some ideas and coming up with stuff, and after a while, it becomes apparent that there's going to be an album. I don't think I'm going to record an album and I'm going to do these compositions for it. It's just I tinker a lot anyway, and then after a while, I've got nearly enough stuff for an album, and then I decide I'm going to do one, and that finishes everything off because otherwise I just end up with billions of unfinished compositions, and I've still got those cluttering up endless hard drives of things that I mean to go back to one day.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think in quite a sort of narrative kind of way of it's going to be an album. It's going to be around 45 minutes because I'm still into that kind of vinyl length thing. I think that's a great length of time for being able to concentrate. I know
Hmm.
for me, kind of once it goes past 50 minutes, it almost doesn't matter how good an album it is. My attention is going to disappear. I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Me too.
Whereas if it's 45 minutes long, I might listen to the album again when it's finished if I've really enjoyed it. But it's kind of familiar territory to go back over rather than just being asked to endlessly process new ideas. Um, so I've got my album length in mind, and then uh, I kind of want to. I'm a big prog rock fan, so I love things like Dark Side of the Moon and those
Mm.
sort of things where you start in a place and it takes you on a journey and you arrive somewhere rather than it being a bunch of tracks as such. And I think a lot of that stuff doesn't work so well if you take it out of context. Or some of those tracks do, there's the classic singles, but particularly the second half of that, you need to listen to it in its entirety to really get the vibe and really get the most out of it. And I think in that way, and that's just to do with music. It's not to do with it being jazz or rock or anything else. It's just what do I want to experience as an album. So that really narrows the pool then, once I decide on that, of which compositions are going to fit together into this pattern of moods that's going to take me on a journey, and I kind of know which ones to finish then. That's helpful.
I really like the shape of the album, Al, with the kind of little interlude moments, like eases in, and then, like the interludes as well, in particular, like the Time to Breathe, for example. I mean, I think of that as an interlude. Forgive me if it's.
Well, no, I mean, it's absolutely designed that way. I mean, they're textures that I like anyway, but, you've had the first two tracks, The Way Back and Sunship Traveling, and by then, they're pretty involved tracks that cover a lot of territory, and you've been concentrating for about 16 minutes. You need time for a breather, and time to just sort of allow that to filter through your brain before you're asked to really concentrate on something again. So that track is designed to do exactly that, to give you a bit of time off. And
pause to breathe, not time to breathe. I'm sorry, I called it time to breathe, but pause to breathe.
I changed the title on that one a few times because I was thinking about exactly how do you want to interpret that? Is it an instruction? Is it a kind of reflection? I'd spend a lot of time on my titles thinking how do they convey the message of the music?
Matt, I love your titles, in particular, Sunship Traveling.
Yeah.
Tell us, what's that?
That one came to me. So in the first lockdown, when nobody could go anywhere and you were only allowed out of your house for an hour at a time or something, and you weren't allowed to talk to anyone or see anyone, or if you made eye contact, you had to run in the other direction and so on. So in one way, it was kind of quite isolating, and in another way, it was the most gorgeous summer. The sun was out all the time. It was just beautiful to be outside. And it's a bit more rural where I am here, so you can walk around the country lanes and things. So that in itself is nice. So you've got this great environment, the sunshine, and something about feeling like you're the only person in the world wandering around doing those, because so few people were around. It was possible to just there's no traffic noise coming from the motorway. The birds are out. There's no other people interrupting you. You're properly on your own in the countryside. And I felt like this sort of Voyager sunship.
Yeah, you're traveling on the sunship.
On my little daily voyage around these lanes.
I love that. I love that. It's not a walk, it's a voyage.
Yeah, absolutely.
A voyage feels very different to a walk. Yeah.
And I would try and find different kind of routes and different places to go and stretch how far I was going to go each time. And I take lots of photos and things all the time anyway of where I'm going. But yeah, it was really nice to, and because we couldn't gig or, no one knew how the world was supposed to recalibrate itself and still work briefly. And it was kind of like being completely let off the hook for needing to, when you're self-employed, you're in that place where you've got to try and generate work the whole time. If you're not incredibly busy, you need to be incredibly busy.
You're doing it wrong. Yeah.
But you could be incredibly busy. And you feel that pressure the whole time, and we couldn't. And it was lovely.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was just an enforced break I guess we should say, we count ourselves lucky that, there weren't health issues and loved ones are well. So that's kind of taken for granted, which very sadly wasn't the case for everyone. Having said that, it was in many ways a wonderful break that we never would have been able to take otherwise, or just wouldn't have taken, because it, like you were saying, you're always trying to be busy. Yeah. Just want to say hello to a couple of people. What's up, William Kerr checking in, appreciate that. And Jamie Murray. Jamie, I was just saying, have a good gig, man. I was earlier today, I was doing one of the necessary evils of promotional work, which was a photo shoot, with Alex Hitchcock, who was on his way to do a gig with Jamie Murray. So I hope he passed on that message. I was just saying, have a good gig, I think, Jamie. Yeah, but I appreciate the message. Al, so tell us a little bit about the Facebook community, the Pointless Beauty community. Is that kind of live? Or is it kind of dormant at the moment?
No, that's live. It's always live. It's been up since 2016. Yeah, I never really have a recruitment drive for it as such. It just takes care of itself. It's not a massive community, but it's there for people to share pictures or video or anything else that kind of elevates their day in some way. I think of it as brightening the day, but it's not always happy stuff or whatever. It's just stuff that makes you feel something. And it's a non-judgmental space where people can just put up things that I liked this for whatever reason, and then people can appreciate that with them. And I'm really pleased to say that in the kind of 6 years it's been up, I've never had to throw anyone out of the group. I've never had to have words with people for, pitching in a negatively critical way where they're just being judgmental or hateful or anything. Sometimes people would be a bit get into a discussion, but that's healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I go into some of the base forums or something, and people are just hating on each other, none of that. I'm really pleased to say, and I mean, I do personally approve everyone, so I have a quick look at people's profiles just to check they're not obvious spammers or just
or a bot or something
who I'm gonna, I'm not on their wavelength at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice bunch of people. So if you want to join that, Pointless Beauty community, just request to join or something. It's an open group, so you can see what's in it anyway. But just if it's your bag and you want to contribute things that you've enjoyed to that, then you're very welcome. And because it's kind of about the concept of Pointless Beauty for me. I almost feel bad about sharing my own work there because I don't want it to be about me trying to sell what I do. I just want people to kind of commune with it and enjoy things collectively.
Yeah.
But because of that, I recently set up a Pointless Beauty communion page, which sometimes commuses people, and that literally is an archive of things that I've done just to try and gather it in one place from Facebook, because I keep sharing things everywhere. But actually, if you do want to see a bulk of my work, it's not that easy. So I've set that one up just to, as things appear in my memories and so on, I keep sharing them there, and I'll put new things in there just so people know where to go for works in progress and things.
Sounds good. And you often post really, really cool images. Well, and on your website, you describe yourself as a digital artist, which I think is a good way of putting it. And if people want to see more of the kind of visual work, Instagram is a good place, in a sort of digestible, scrolly way. If you see something you like, you can take your time and pause, or you can, move past it.
Yeah. I mean, that started as sort of almost a form of therapy for me. So I think maybe it's a common sort of trajectory for a lot of creative people or whatever. You start off in a very literal kind of way, capturing things that you like, and then you go through a sort of emulation phase of things that are similar, and then gradually you find your own. You start manipulating those and changing them, and after a while I found out I was making really abstract images because I got this little editing program on there, Snapseed, which lets you do all kinds of, it's like a mini Photoshop on your phone.
Cool.
So I could just sit there for 5 to sometimes an hour just manipulating bunches of images that I take, and I take photographs all the time, and I stick them on the Instagram. But it's just fun doing, again, that process and little narrative journeys that you tell yourself.
Really cool images.
I love the line.
I love the line, man. It's so ominous, and but it doesn't look like just a line. It could be like the horizon, it could be the end, the beginning. It could be like a light. It could be like
I mean, I can tell you what it is, or not ruin the mystery.
I don't want to, or maybe. What do you think? Everyone go and follow Al Swainger's _pointless_beauty. Nice catchy title there, Al.
I know, it's just terrible, isn't it?
Hey, why don't we play the people a beautiful video and a beautiful piece? tell us about the title, and can you also tell the album title comes from a really nice quote.
Yeah.
Where's the quotation from?
So the quote is, it's one of those things. Someone asks a question and immediately it goes out of your head. It's a
So,
Martin Luther King, much longer speech. It comes
yeah,
from.
I've got
And
the
the
quote
phrases.
here if you want me to.
Okay, read out the quote. Yeah.
No, but if you, do you remember it?
Uh, read it out just to be sure that you're
Sure.
getting it right. I'm good.
All we need to serve is a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time kind of musing on that. I like it. I like this idea that everyone has something to contribute to making other people's lives better. And it's not to do with power or money or any of those things. I mean, those can assist, but basically, you have to be someone who wants to contribute to the world and your community around you and the people with whom you interact. So it might be making somebody a cup of tea, or it might be, donating £1 million if you've got it to a homeless shelter. Both those things have a positive impact on the world, and you do the things that are within your power to make the world a better place. That was kind of what I took from that.
Nice.
Uh,
And what about Two Steps?
Two Steps is, it's up to you whether you see it as a kind of a positive or a negative kind of thing. So you got this phrase kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or it could be 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward, depending
Sideways.
on the day that you're having. And that came out of all that indecision we were having for a while about, okay, we're on top of this kind of wave, and now there's another variant, and the government's got this plan, and then that's not working, and it suddenly changed to something else, and there was a whole confusing period about, okay, we're going to be out and we're gigging. Okay, work's on the right. Oh no,
Yeah.
we've had to cancel everything again, and we're stuck inside again, and it kind of, are we getting there? Are we not? So there was that whole kind of thing to it, and then musically there's a few cheeky things, like there's a part of it is a very adapted nod to Giant Steps.
2 Steps. I see.
So I can't resist these terrible puns. Mainly I keep it in check, but they leak out. So it's that. And then, musically, it's kind of, that's where all the shifting time signatures and things come from. That it keeps going up and down between 5 and 6 and 4, and all these different styles and so on. Is that, where are we, where are we not? And it was sort of being positive and a bit more stressful or a bit more light. And I just wanted all these shades kind of to represent a bit of that chaos. But yeah, it's up to you how you see it.
Great. Well, have a listen and a look, folks. This is 2 Steps by Mr. Al Swainger. I'm on guitar, John Clark on drums, Gary Aylesbrook on flugel and trumpet.
He's on trumpet on this one.
Trumpet. And
beautiful flugel playing as well. George Cooper on keys. And yeah, this is mainly of live performance from the studio. The take is of us doing this thing, and then some other stuff because you can't just sit watching a bunch of guys playing the whole time.
No one wants to do that. Enjoy. 2 Steps. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice
Nice.
watching that back again. Sort of reminds me of. So, I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed about working with you on this was how quickly you responded to whatever I sort of said I wanted. I mean, you kind of guessed ahead a lot of the time from the shape of the production or whatever. But yeah, it was just. I'm really happy because I've got all your recordings, and I feel like I've got kind of a different version of you than you record, um, because
Ah,
it's kind
okay.
of
Yeah.
you're responding to me as a producer. It's kind of saying what I want, and then
Yes.
doing that in session guitarist mode, and it's very cool how easy you seem to find it to be able to do that. Um,
You hear that?
so
You hear that, everyone? Book me.
yeah, hire this guy. It's amazing.
No, why?
But,
I'm really.
the relentless thing you play in a lot more bluesier fashion than you tend to for your own stuff, and
You're right, actually.
on this one you've hitting a fairly metal kind of bag. I mean, I definitely drove up the distortion levels and things because I've got an idea in my head of kind of the guitar sounds that I'm after as well, and I'm not shy about just messing with other people's stuff to do that.
And Al,
Um,
yeah, we were just talking as well about how often. So John Clark, the drummer, the amazing drummer, really nice performance on that. On
yeah,
that tune, but just the nature of the way that the drums were recorded, he didn't feature too heavily, except for on screen. So, but
and then you've
off,
got the awkwardness of it. I mean, the shot that I've got, he's on brushes where he's clearly playing sticks, but
yeah,
I just
yeah,
needed to include him
yeah.
in some fashion.
It's
And it's
almost like
because
he
he was in
drops in
this
and
tiny
goes,
little
"Here
booth
he
that had
is."
no room for a camera to move around him, really, or it was just very difficult for them, sadly. But yeah, I mean, John is not getting the love that he deserves on this because he's just the perfect level of chops when you need them and understatement, and he just never stands out beyond the mix. And that's not what you want on a recording anyway. But I think because you and Gary both sound so exceptional across the whole thing. That's
Oh
where
well,
all the first line attention is going, and sort of understandably, but it means
but
um,
if you and John put a foot wrong, we wouldn't sound,
yeah.
anywhere.
Although because I'm editing it, I can just change that anyway.
You can fix it. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah, no, I mean John, I'm very yeah, he's just on it. I don't have to fix him.
yeah.
Um,
Hey, so
it's great.
this review came in yesterday. First line of the review, everyone. When sent this album for review, I wasn't expecting to be quite so blown away. Well, why weren't you expecting that, Mr. or Mrs.? No, I'm just kidding. And lots of other nice things. So that's great, man. The reviews are coming in. And
Yeah,
but Al, we were talking earlier about how certain people maybe get mentioned more than others in reviews, and I think one of the great things about playing with you is that you quite often play what sounds like an amazing guitar solo on the bass with a pitch shifter that goes up 2 octaves while I'm just kind of softly comping. Maybe I'm trying to sound like a keyboard and you're sort of assuming the role of the guitar and everything kind of gets passed around.
yeah,
But we were just talking before we went live. Do you remember we were talking about maybe sort of a more kind of traditional role of bass being a sort of supportive instrument or something? Will you talk about that for a minute and what you were kind of going
yeah.
for with
So I
this?
mean, in a traditional jazz quartet with the acoustic instruments, you've got very fixed roles because those are kind of where they're designed, and particularly bass. It sits at the bottom. When it solos, it doesn't cut through a mix very easily. If you go up the neck a bit, it's kind of I don't know. I think people don't know how to support that if it stops being a bass, and so
Mm.
often it's sort of left high and dry to be entertaining and be amazing. But you can't. I mean, for the most part, you can't play that fast and still having it meaningful. I mean, you've got your Steph Pedersens and uh, Christian McBride and so on. Those guys sound fantastic, but it's always going to be the same kind of thing because of the nature of the physics of the sound of the instrument.
Mm.
Um, and for more mortal players, it's just being given a solo on a burning 300 BPM version of Cherokee or something. There's not a lot you can really do that, and you're going to be given a very finite amount of time to prove yourself. And if you don't immediately sound amazing, the attitude is, well, that wasn't great, probably not going to ask you again.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, solos, they're supposed to be where everyone has a chance to express themselves. But then when the tempo is really fast, the chords are there, and everyone's dropped out. The parameters within which you're supposed to express yourself are so rigid that sometimes you don't really feel like you're expressing yourself at all, right?
Well, no, because your responsibility is to hold down the roots of the chords, make that harmony clear, and define the rhythm really strongly, so the pulse is really there. So obviously when you stop doing that, if no one else takes it up, then you're kind of super exposed, and you're not spending the length of time soloing with a band that everybody, well, particularly sax players and piano players and guitarists get to do, because they'll do 500 choruses, and then you've got one, maybe two, to kind of dazzle people. So just in the nature of the way that the sonics are and the physicality of the instrument, you're at an inherent disadvantage with expressing yourself in the same way that those instruments are able to. So it creates this hierarchical kind of thing that's just built into the style of music. And so, horn players are going to solo through everything, then almost always it's going to be either the guitar or piano that's on it, and then maybe a bass solo, and then maybe trading with the drums or something. And you go to a certain side of gig where that happens every tune, and it gets quite dull. I love playing with guys like I had some gigs with Bruce Adams last week, and that sort of generation of player that understands that it needs to be entertaining for an audience. And so you do that by changing around the orders of things, varying the tempos, maybe not soloing of the whole thing even, there's much more of an instinctual awareness of how to keep the variety up, which is really cool. But you're still trapped. Well, not trapped, but it's inherent to the style that a bass is never going to feature very heavily in that, which is not a problem, but you just sort of accept that that's the way it is. So if you want to do something different, and during my teens, I got my grade 8 piano, I was playing French horn, I played guitar. And I did all this classical stuff and big bands and pop music and all these kind of things. And then at the end of my teens, or after I got back from kind of teacher training, and realized that being in a classroom was definitely not for me, then I started trying to get work as a player. And you start off by telling, well, I play all these instruments. And people go, what? Okay. And it wasn't until I started saying, well, I'm a bass player. And people go, oh, okay, you're a bass player. We'll give you bass gigs. So now I'm a bass player, which is great. And I'm really enjoying it. But I have all this language from other instruments that I'd learned during my teens that's really a part of who I am, and no ability to express it. Because, I mean, if you want to do like a rip-roaring guitar solo or something, you need to be in that kind of register with a load of distortion and other stuff. You can't do that as a bass player. The voice just, it doesn't work for it. And the where it is in the ensemble doesn't work for it. So to me, and with the effects pedals and so on, you just change what your instrument sounds like so that it's the right kind of voice to be able to express those ideas. It's not about me wanting to be a guitar player. It's just that sometimes I want to do a solo which requires me to be a guitar player in order to get that intent across. So for me, the effects pedals and things are kind of like organ stops or something, where you just fundamentally transform the sound of your instrument to be able to express the ideas that you've got for your solo. So if you decide to do that, you can either play by yourself the whole time so that you arrange everything and then you're just a kind of soloist, or you think about your ensemble as a community and what the roles are that are in that and how can we transform the instruments. So I mean, you can become a synth pad, or you can become a bass player, or these other things, and we can do that to all the instruments. So then when I write, I'm thinking about the whole ensemble, how the community works, what people are going to be doing within that, and make sure that the roles are assigned so that it still works. Because the compositions and the way that we perceive that frequency spectrum and the roles that are involved kind of need to happen from piece to piece, but they don't have to be performed by the same people the whole time if the whole group understands who's doing what. So that's my shift in the way that I compose. I don't always want to be confined to the bass chair. Most of the time I'm happy to be doing that, but if I want to go somewhere else, I need to specifically assign the bass chair to somebody else, because it's probably not going to occur to them that they need to do it. So on the first track on this album, The Way Back, I ended up taking you off it completely. Not because what you were doing wasn't good, but just because I wanted it to be a really clear distinction between what I can do that's guitar-like and what you do. So if you were on it, people would immediately assume it would be you. So that's why I took you off it.
I was trying to take credit. I was trying to take credit for all your work, Al, man.
So that one's synth bass. I don't play any bass at all. So the bass roll is still there, and it's combined kind of with the piano. And then I just sit back until about halfway through, and then I come in with all my guitar-y type stuff. To really grab hold of that idea of changing roles, and that it doesn't need to be the way that it is. We have good reasons for things being the way they are, but it can be a choice.
Yeah, and everything can be fluid. And when you play with, the same is true, not just with, I'm not saying this to you, Al, maybe for the benefit of, non-musicians watching, but the roles of each instrument can be completely fluid, basically. And so, normally we might expect the drums to be the timekeepers, but these days it might be the guitar, and the drums might play in a completely open way where they're not really stating the time clearly, or the bass or whatever. Jez Franks, fine guitar player who lives in Walthamstow now, he had a band called Compassionate Dictatorship, which was about, I think it was about, like, when you are the soloist, you are the dictator, but you try to be compassionate to your should really get him on this to ask him. But hey, speaking of guitar players, do you remember, Al, in the sessions we would join very briefly by the one and only John Cordy?
Yeah, I do.
John, all I have to say is that. And also, Al, I'm trying to collect these. Can you think of a better name for a guitar player than Cordy? Let me give some other examples. Nominative determinism, yeah? We've got Usain Bolt. Come on, okay?
Yeah.
The Vibes player in New York, Chris Dingman. Yeah. Chad Wackerman.
Yeah. Has to be a drummer. Yeah.
What effects does Al do to guitar himself up? John, Al, I said we weren't going to talk about pedals. But I'm going to. I give you 10 seconds.
You said it would put people to sleep, but now someone's asked.
Someone's woken up. I give you 10 seconds to give us the lowdown on what effects you use.
Okay, so the chief two things that I would use are either the eventide pitch factor, because you've got the delay and the pitch shift, which enables you to do like arpeggio type stuff, or I'm going to do just solo type stuff. Then it tends to be pitch shift up 2 octaves, loaded distortion, loaded delay, and that'll cover a lot of situations.
Hey, I'm sorry, I feel really bad for rushing you, but you really, you nailed that,
man.
I
just took it as a challenge. Can I get something meaningful across?
Are you happy, John? Does that answer your question? Pedal lover, you? No, I love pedals too. John.
The DL4, that's my desert island pedal. If I couldn't have anything else, I would take the DL4.
Yeah. Although on the desert island, like, I don't know, the power
supply. I know, there's no way to plug it in and it doesn't run off batteries, but I'm putting all that on one side,
Yeah. John Cordy, everyone. Oh, we've got another pedal question. All right, looks like this is pedal time. Yes, I guess you mean I used to do the opposite to try and sound like a bassist. Yes, exactly, John. Yeah, pitch shifting it down low or adding extra strings. Although I don't like trying to be a bassist because I have to take so much responsibility for the time and the harmony. If I play a certain pitch and you're taking care of the lower parts of the chords, Al,
Yeah.
There's a lot more freedom up there, but I think the way that harmony works.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's the exact same thing for me. And that's what I think makes
That's
an
why
awful
you
lot
want
of
to go
bass
up there.
solos sound bad, is because people don't realize that that responsibility that you have had now needs to be shifted somewhere else. Because, yeah, if you're going to play any kind of extension, it's only meaningful if you can hear what that's a dissonance against. If you take
Yes.
that fundamental away, it's just a note.
Yeah. Al, we've received a message from someone who I believe knows you well, judging by the second name and also the comment itself. And yeah, I'm sure, and we could talk about this for hours.
Yeah, she's got used over the years to saying, "I'm tired now. That's enough."
I'm tired now. Shh. Sometimes when people are saying things I don't like, I try and MD them, like bring off the,
Okay, yeah.
just
Don't give a tips.
Hey, Sophie, thanks for finding this on YouTube. Respect. That's quite, non-orthodox channel for these live streams, or maybe it's orthodox. What do I know? I'm not a broadcaster. Anyway, one more question, I think, from David. What was the purple thing I had to board in the video? MXR submachine. I might have to go back to the video. It could be the Way Huge pork loin, which is Way Huge is a company. Pork loin is basically distortion, but it has compression built in. Because I really like blended sounds. Blended sounds are more rich and more fun to my ear. Let me just have a very quick look. I'm just scroll through the video, just to take 2 seconds. Yeah. That's the Way Huge pork loin. Check it out, David. You might like it, man.
You were using the HX Stomp, was it, a lot?
Yeah.
On that thing. So yeah, when I came to tweak your guitar sounds on the album, I purposely stuck to the plug-in desktop version of that same pedal,
Wicked.
whatever that is, the HX thing, so that it would come from the same kind of sound base.
Yeah. Oh, great, man. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, so let's move it on because we got another video to get through, and then we'll say goodbye to everyone. Tell me about this album.
Oh yeah. So it's always hard work getting gigs, isn't it?
Yes.
People are quite resistant to original music. And so this was one of my phases of thinking,
and that makes it worse. That makes it worse.
Yeah.
When people don't know, sorry to cut you off, Al, I probably always do this, ask a question. But, that is the real thing. If people don't learn to listen without judgment, just sit down and listen to something. And, people go, oh, I don't really like it. It doesn't matter whether you like it, shut up and listen. You'll only know really after you've listened.
Well, and the question that comes with it when you bring a new album out. So what does this sound like? What is it? Well,
it's music.
Just listen to it, and then you'll know.
Yeah,
I can make up a whole load of stuff, but basically listen to it. So anyway, this is one of my swing back periods. Years before I did a kind of tribute to Art Pepper album with Alan Barnes, and then I moved on from that, and I did 2 of my own Pointless Beauty albums, and then couldn't afford to tour it, and then I wanted to do a live band again, and I've moved to Bristol. And I did a jam session, which each week was kind of a new jazz musician. And I would get people to sign up in advance so that I knew they would learn the tunes, so we could do something that was more challenging than just people winging it on the night and failing massively. And one of these was a Chick Corea night, which Tom Burge and Joe Northwood, who were on this album, were on, and John was my regular drummer for that. So it was a way of networking a bit, meeting more of the musicians, because I'd only just moved here, that I'd keep swapping kind of who was on it. And the Chick one went so well that I sort of said, well, should we rehearse a load of this and see if we can get some gigs? So yeah, we did that, and then recorded this album. And I can never really leave anything alone. So they're kind of reimaginings of Chick's tunes, and I'd stuck some of my production imagination into that. And then in the process of trying to get gigs for it, one of the better paid gigs in the Southwest, one of the only well-paid gigs in the Southwest, is the Ilminster Arts Centre. But the guy would only take quintets, and this is a quartet project. So then in my kind of, how can I get this gig? All right, we could fit a guitar player into this. So it was kind of, I'm mates with Outram and Aunt Law. Will one of those do? And
He was
said,
like,
well,
who are they?
Ant's been trying to get a gig here for a while. Bring him and you can have the gig. They're like, right, done. So then I phoned you up. And then you said, well, why don't we do a tour? And I stupidly went, yeah, that's a great idea. And organised a whole load of dates.
Hey, here's the tour.
Yeah.
This
And it's
is
a proper tour. None of your 3-day nonsense here. We did a full 7 days.
Yeah, that was fat. That's a fat tour, man. And I really enjoyed that, man. I had a great time meeting the chaps, and yeah,
it was good fun. And also, I used it as an opportunity to. So we did half the gig of the Chick album, and the other half was the previous Pointless Beauty album, the After and Before one. Bam, on it. That's the cover for that one. So this is kind of the spiritual predecessor to the current album, which is also a quintet album, and that one does have Outram on it. But yeah, it was so nice to go and play. So I found a way to squeeze original music into a whole load of gigs which didn't really want it. But the audience response was lovely, and so often people came up and said, "That was amazing. Actually, preferred your stuff to the Chick." So, which is, obviously awesome. What you want to hear as a composer, I mean, Chick.
Yeah.
I love those tunes, which is why we wanted to do them. But to have people come up and say, we were actually even more into this.
Yeah. I should say,
not that they would have been necessarily if Chick-a-Ree had been there, but our renditions.
Yeah. What I really like about this album as well is that there are a lot of tunes maybe that people haven't heard actually. So if you're expecting the extremely well-known tunes by Chick, maybe
we did squeeze a couple in there.
Maybe they're on that, but there are also some that you'd probably be less familiar with. I love this because what happens is whenever it comes, for a musician, when it comes to album recording time, and you think, okay, so I've been on this earth for this amount of time, and I'm going to make my statement as a distillation of all of these life experiences and these countless hours, and if you add it together, probably actual years of constant practice, and then you get the whole album on a little USB stick about this size.
That's exactly what. That's a teaspoon.
Yeah.
It's not even a dessert spoon. It's a teaspoon.
Yeah.
And like you say, years and countless amounts of, I don't know, just your whole life is on this tiny little thing.
It's big. Yeah. But so check these two albums out. Al Swainger, ALSWAINGER.bandcamp.com. You can find Al is really prolific. Seriously, respect Al, man. You put out so much stuff. It's great, and keep up the good work. And I think this album, I'm really pleased that these reviews are so positive. I'm only involved because I really like your compositions and you as a person, obviously. So I'm biased, but I think you can be really proud of it, man. And
thank you.
May the good reviews continue to roll in. Shall we?
We've got a distance between that first random standards gig that we did together and doing this.
The Blue Vanguard. Yeah. So that's where we met, right?
You were touring some of your own stuff, perhaps, and Hustle for One, at the club that I was running. So you came along as a guest, and we hit it off there, which is why we've stayed in touch.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to plug that I haven't mentioned?
No, I mean that's the main one that I'm really proud of at the minute. But as you say, there's a ton of stuff on my Bandcamp, and I mean, if you want to take the bold step of subscribing, it's only 25 quid for everything I've ever done.
Wow.
Which is not a huge amount more than just buying the current albums.
Yeah.
Very abstract and ambient and more poppy stuff, some stuff with vocalists, and just go and wander around, check it out.
Check it out, people. You've got time this weekend, Jubilee weekend, bank holidays and all this. Time, stick it on the headphones when you go for a walk, all that kind of thing. I can
highly recommend it late at night as well when you're on your own wandering around. It's particularly atmospheric.
Yeah, it is nice. For me, it's very hard to sit still with my eyes closed and listen. So I quite often will listen to an album when I'm walking around, just because there's enough going on visually to that I don't get bored and start reaching for my phone or something.
Sure.
Hey Al, tell us. This is maybe a good one to go to close out on. tell us about Relentless.
Yeah. So this is a lockdown version of Relentless, which is also on this album. So we recorded like a 3-minute version of this, but the year before I'd done a thing for I can't remember where it's based, the Refuge Jazz Festival, somewhere in the north of England. I think you probably contributed something to that as well when they did video submissions.
Yes.
And they showed it. Everyone was locked away. And so I thought, well, because at that stage people were still into the whole multi-camera video thing. You know, everyone was sick of it after a while. But and I was on my own, so yeah, I went for it and played all the instruments. And so I'm on keyboards on this. There's drum loops. I'm triggering Ableton. There's me doing my guitar solo type thing, and then wonking out with a lot of effects at the end. Yeah, I mean, it was just fun to do. So it's a different vibe to the one that we ended up with. Probably a little, I don't know what it is, but you can listen, and this is on Spotify too. You can listen to this one there.
Cool.
So I haven't got huge amounts of stuff on Spotify, but I do have the After and Before album, some singles with singers, and this track that we're about to play.
Great. So check it out. The new album is not on Apple Music or Spotify. And, you know, if it was, you just get it for free. You just support Al and buy the album.
Selfishly, I'd really like people to buy it at the moment, just so I can afford to have made it. That's basically all it's about. It's not about making money.
Yeah, it's break even. Exactly. It's breaking even after the fact. And then any extra is just going to go to, you know, clearly you're just going to use it to create more.
Just make another album. That's all I'm about. Yeah.
And therein, well, there's the relentless cycle of creativity. Hey, Al, thank you so much for carving out some time, man. It's good to catch up.
Absolutely great talking to you. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, lovely to catch up.
Pleasure, man. Everyone, enjoy Relentless. Support this beautiful artist. And see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Quarantine Zone. See you later, Al.
Bye.